Hello, and thank you for listening to episode 3 of Begonia Banter with me, Kristen, from @BegoniaSarawak on Instagram. Today, I have an interesting few topics I want to talk about. Well, interesting to me. I hope everyone else will find them interesting also. But I wanted to talk about how I buy plants to have a manageable collection slash avoiding buying the high, and also how I stay organized with my plant care and my plant chores, because ever since I started my Instagram a few years ago, I have always gotten messages about, oh my gosh, you're so organized. How do you stay organized? And I didn't think I was doing anything particularly special. I don't know, I guess I'm just an organized person, but I really had to sit down and think about, okay, well, it might come naturally to me, but what do I actually do to stay organized? So I wanted to talk about that also. And I hope that this is interesting for people to listen to, because these are topics that I want to talk about. So I'm going to talk about them. So, first, I wanted to discuss specifically how I purchase plants and avoid buying the high or feeling regretful for a purchase, and keeping a manageable collection. I think it comes down to, how do you want to feel when you're doing your hobby? For me personally, I don't want to feel like I have so much going on that it takes the joy out of my hobby. So if I have a certain amount of plants, for instance, and I'm just constantly thinking, what needs propagating? What needs water? This one has a pest. This one needs more light. This one needs this, da 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 da. And then it becomes almost stressful. And let's say you didn't get around to watering that plant. Then you might feel guilty. Then you start feeling bad. Then you're having trouble sleeping because you're feeling bad about all these tasks that you didn't get done. And to me, that would make my hobby unenjoyable and something that I wouldn't want to do. So first and foremost, you have to, in my opinion, you have to zero in on what amount of plants would make you feel joyous and comfortable. Obviously, that number is going to be different for every single person, depending on how busy you are with your job, or if you have kids or pets, or how big your house or apartment is, or what kind of outdoor space do you have. There's all these different individualistic factors that each person has, which will make each person's number different. So that is something for you to figure out. Like, if you want, for some people, maybe it's just a shelf of plants and that's manageable to them. And other people, it might be a full-on, jungle indoor jungle situation, and they'll feel okay with that, right? Like, obviously, none of us are going to judge the other person for however many plants they have, but I think it's important to also not judge the person who doesn't have a lot of plants, because maybe that's just all they can manage, or that's what they feel the most happy taking care of, So every person's number of plants are going to be different. So what I'm talking about is just for myself personally. And the thing I think that has helped me the most is realizing there is a difference between liking a plant and wanting to grow a plant indefinitely in my care, in my home. Those are two totally different things, because there are copious amounts of beautiful plants online that I look at and think, wow, that plant is gorgeous. Those colors, that leaf, the structure, the growth pattern. Like, you can appreciate the beauty in a plant, but not necessarily want to grow it in your home. That has been the major key for myself. I think it can get tricky when you see all these beautiful plants online, and the prices from COVID have fallen, so everything is reasonably priced now, in my opinion. So it can be, I think, easy for somebody to see a plant online that they really love, buy it, and then maybe they get it in and they're like, I didn't really like this, or in person it's different, and, buyer's remorse basically. So I think just realizing that there's a difference between liking and appreciating a plant versus owning a plant and indefinitely taking up space in your home for this plant, and indefinitely taking care of it, or having the potential to indefinitely take care of something. So I think if you just ask yourself specifically, do I want to indefinitely grow this plant, instead of, do I like this plant? Because odds are most of us are going to sit there and say, oh yeah, I like this plant, this plant, this plant, this plant. But if you ask yourself, okay, do I want it to take up space, and do I want to indefinitely grow this plant? Maybe the answer would be no, or you're unsure. And I would suggest, if you're unsure, then to just sleep on it. Maybe the answer is yes, maybe the answer is no. But if you're unsure, I wouldn't just have a trigger finger and purchase it, personally, for me. The second thing that has helped me with a manageable collection, and I'm using the term manageable loosely because it's my definition of manageable, like we discussed in the beginning of this episode. So I have a specific type of plant that I like. It's like your stereotypical plant. Like, I'm sure you have plant friends that if you're out and about and you see a plant, you'd be like, oh my gosh, so-and-so would love that plant. Like, usually there's a type. So that could be leaf shape, or growth pattern, or color, or if there's spots, or if there's intricate veining, or mature leaf size, or, all the types of characteristics that plants have, right? So for me personally, I like plants that look like Begonia Sarawak. Like, I kind of like all of the sister plants that look like Begonia Sarawak. So I like that. I like small leaves. That's probably my biggest thing. Is if you show me a begonia with small leaves, I will 95% like it, because I just really have I have a preference for begonias with small leaves. So that's just my type. That's what I like. Obviously, I also like iridescent plants. I like crawling species. That would be, in general, my type, would be those characteristics. So if I see a plant online, and let's say the leaves can get, or have the ability to get, massive, I probably won't be purchasing that plant. I can still really love it and appreciate it, but I probably won't be purchasing it, because I know in the future I probably will fall out of love for it, or I just in general don't like the aesthetic of those big leafy kind of kale looking plants. You know what I'm talking about. So I think if you have a specific preference, now that doesn't mean you can't ever buy a plant that's different than your norm. Obviously not. We have to be logical when talking about these kinds of things. But in general, in keeping kind of, reining in your collection, or keeping it of a manageable size, I think in general, sticking with a type of plant or a specific look of plant will help you not have buyer's remorse in the future or at a later date. Next is important. I would say patience is key. So I think gone are the days of the COVID plants where, a plant would pop up online and it would be gone in like 30 seconds. So I think if you see a plant online and let's say all of it is green flags, right? Like you don't only like it, but you want to grow it. Like my first point that I talked about, it is your stereotypical, beautiful, aesthetic plant that brings you joy. Okay, check. In my opinion, I think if you put it on a wish list and don't purchase it right away, it could save you from buyer's remorse because, well, and it's like that with clothes too, or makeup, or anything really. If you see something that you instantly get that high and you're like, oh my God, I need to have this, I want it, I need it, I have to have this. And then if you just pump the brakes and you say, okay, I'm going to go to sleep, I'm going to sleep on it. If I wake up and I still feel joyous when I am looking at this plant, or if I still want to grow it indefinitely, then yeah, go ahead and purchase it. For me, I usually wait a few days to a week just to really make sure that I want to grow this plant and it's something that I want to have. So in that aspect, I do think that patience is key. And sometimes the high of finding, like, let's say, like a rare plant or a sought after plant or a popular plant, and like, let's say you find somebody that's selling it, the high of finding the needle in the haystack might actually fade. And that's all I'm suggesting is patience is key. Okay. Also, I think it's important, separate point, to update your wish list frequently. I don't really have a wish list. And when I say don't really have a wish list, I mean there's two plants on there's two begonias and one non-begonia. So in terms of begonias, there's two begonias on my wish list. And I have always been a person that likes to kind of, I don't know what the term is, but, throw things out or get rid of things that are unnecessary. Like, I don't have excess stuff, like just in general in my life, in my personal life, or even with plants or plant care items. I like to constantly have turnover and keep updating things. So if I have a wish list that's long, it feels to me like I don't know, it's just excess to me. Like either I'm going to buy it or I'm not going to buy it. Like, I don't really know how else to explain it other than, yeah, I don't like stuff lingering. I just like to have stuff taken care of. So if I have a wish list that has, 25 plants on it or something, that to me feels, personally, to me, that feels excessive. Because the odds of me purchasing every single plant on that wish list are probably 0% for me personally. I'm just talking about me. So it just feels extra. So I constantly am updating my wish list, and I don't really do that anymore now just because my list is so small. Like, I know the plants off of the top of my head. I don't have to look through a wish list to like think of, oh wait, what was that plant that I saw 5 months ago on so and so's page? Da, 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 da. Like, no, I am not like that. But I suggest if you do have a wish list, and that's long. Let's say there's, I don't know, if there's like 25 plants on your wish list, let's say, I would suggest that you think about it through a critical lens and say, okay, am I realistically going to purchase this plant? Because odds are, there's new, and I'm doing air quotes here, there's new plants coming onto the market, every day, every month, every week. So are you just adding to your wish list, or are you kind of cleaning house, so to speak? So if you have a list that's over 25 plants, let's say, or you know what I'm saying, like it doesn't have to be 25, but just a long list of plants, I would urge you to go through there and critically think about, okay, am I actually realistically going to purchase this plant? If it's been on your list for a long time and you haven't taken the plunge to actually purchase the plant, let's just say it's in stock somewhere, because, obviously it gets a little bit more complicated if it's a highly sought after rare plant that isn't on the market and blah, 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 blah. Okay, I'm just talking about in general, if it's somewhat an accessible plant and you haven't purchased it yet, ask yourself, okay, if a new plant comes on the market, am I going to purchase that over this plant? And if the answer is yes, then I would say take it off your wish list, because it's probably a plant that you just admire and you appreciate and you like seeing pictures of, but of you actually cultivating that plant, maybe not. Maybe you want to leave yourself open to new things or new plants. So that would be my suggestion if you have a long wish list. And lastly, my point for this is, obviously, we're not robots. Like, even if you have all these, what's the term? If you have all these, why can't I think of the word? If you have, I don't want to say the word things, but I'm going to have to, because I literally can't think of the word. If you have all these little things that you're checking off, like, okay, I want to grow this plant. I don't just like this plant. It is my typical type. It has my leaf shape and my growth pattern. And it's been on my wish list for a week, and the high of finding the plant has gone away. But I still really want to cultivate this plant. And let's say you've gotten through all of those things. My God, why can't I think of this word? If you've gone through all of, like your list of criteria, okay, check, 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 check. Okay, am I actually going to purchase this plant? Let's say you purchase it, you get it in. Let's say there's probably one of two things that can happen. One, you can love it and grow it happily for the rest of your life. Or you can, actually, there's three things. That's number one. Number two, it could come in the mail and you look at it and you say, this isn't really what I was expecting. I think I like it in pictures better. There's something about, like, there's hair on it and I didn't realize there was hair, and I don't like fuzzy petioles and blah, blah, blah. Like all these, I'm sure it's happened to people. That can happen. Or you could get it in, you can realize, the last one, you could get it in and realize, it's okay. I think it'll be better, like, once I grow it. Maybe it just looks not the greatest because it's come from shipping, blah, blah, blah. And let's say you grow it for a little while and then you realize, yeah, this isn't for me. This isn't something, it's different than what I thought it was going to be. That happens. It's not like you have to feel guilty about it or like bad about yourself because, it checked off all of these things and you bought it and it still didn't work out the way you wanted it to. That's fine. Like, I mean, how are you going to know? You're purchasing something off of a picture. I mean, when you buy clothes off of the internet and let's say it comes in and it doesn't fit, you don't, all of a sudden start feeling bad, you just return it and it's fine. So when it comes to plants, I think it's totally okay and acceptable to then sell the plant. Like, if you don't want to have that species anymore, I don't think there's any shame. I think I've seen some people get a little weird about it online. I don't think we should be forcing people to grow species that they don't like just because they thought they were going to like it. I think that's a very not accepting narrative to push on people, and it's just a little bit weird how I see that sometimes. Not often, but I have seen it like more than once, so it is a thing. And I think if somebody buys a plant and it's not what they expected, or they just don't want to grow it anymore, like they're allowed to sell it, or they're allowed to give it away to a friend, or whatever. They're allowed to sell it and get rid of it. So anyway, I digress, going off on a different tangent there. But yeah, I mean, that's happened to me with what specific? Oh, these miniature orchids. I should really just stick with begonia, because every plant that I decide to branch, begonia and fern, I should say, those are my two absolute diehard loves. But it seems like every time I try to branch out and try a new genus, it doesn't work out and I don't like it. So I think I'm just these what are they called? Stelis pilosa, fuzzy toilet orchid. If you don't know what it is, you can Google it. Online and in pictures, they look so cute. I'm not gonna lie. They're like the most cutest little tiny flowers. Obviously, I like small leaves, so the fact that these have small flowers, like, I loved it. They're really pretty pale yellow. They have like little fuzzies on them. I thought they would look so cute if I made a terrarium with Sarawak, this miniature orchid, and what was the other one I was going to put in there? Oh, why can't I think of anything right now? Oh, my species cowbang. 2 crawlers and this miniature orchid. I thought that would look so cute. I'd get the iridescent factor. I'd get the cool, branchy orchid, miniature orchid flowers. And then I'd get a little veining from the species cowbang. And I thought, oh, that would look so cute in a little terrarium together. So I got this plant in the mail. And okay, I should preface with I don't really know anything about orchids, okay? Like, I know that they don't like to be watered, basically. And it's coming from an overwaterer, so in general, they are, epiphytes, so they don't like to have moist roots all the time. Okay, that's what I'm trying to say. And I guess I just thought in my head, and mind you, I didn't really do a whole ton of research on this, so there's that factor. I probably should have done way more research, but I thought that they were gonna just have flowers on them, and in hindsight, I truly don't know why I thought that, but I really did think that they would have shipped with flowers and then they would just always have flowers. Like, I thought it was going to be like Begonia blankii, where when you get it to the point where it flowers, it just never, ever stops. It's just in a perpetual state of flowering. And I thought in my head, for some reason, that that's how this mini orchid was going to be. Like, it was just going to always have these cute little yellow fuzzy flowers. And yeah, that's not how it is. And that's fine. I get that now. But but what I'm left with is the foliage, and it's just plain little green grassy like leaves, and it's, in my opinion, a little boring to look at that if it doesn't have flowers on it. So yeah, that's a plant as an example where I bought it, it fit my criteria, and I went ahead and got it, and it didn't work out, so now I am selling them. So I think we've talked enough about how to keep a manageable collection, and I sometimes tend to repeat myself, so I won't go over. I'm trying not to repeat myself, but just in general, you guys get what I'm saying. So the next topic I want to talk about in this is how I stay organized. So I'm going to do a brief overview of how I stay organized. One, I have a schedule and I stick to the schedule more or less. I have multiple Excel spreadsheets. I have a planner and I use the Notes app on my phone. So those are in general what I do to stay organized, and I'll go into detail on each one of those points now. So make a schedule. So I find it as I kind of relate it to keeping up with like housework and stuff. Like I'll usually have a day of the week where I vacuum, and then I have a day of the week where I mop the floor, and I have a day of the week where I dust, and a day of the week when I do the bathrooms. And that way I always know when the last time it was done. So like as an example, I vacuum my floors every Monday. So if it's like Thursday and I'm like, wait, when was the last time I vacuumed? Da, da, da. Like I know what the answer is. I know I last vacuumed on Monday. So that's how I organize it in my head with my plants. So per every day of the week, there's like a different thing that I associate with it. And I have learned to not do less than what's on my schedule and don't do more than what's on my schedule. Because there's been multiple times where I have overdone something one day because, let's say, I don't know, I was in a particular mood where I was just really feeling the plant chores. So I did multiple things in one day. But then what happens is with me, because I am an organized person, it messes up in my head when the last time that thing was done. So let's say I did Wednesday's task on Monday. Then it goes, Monday, Tuesday, then that Wednesday comes, and I have to remind myself, oh no, I don't do that task today because I did it on Monday. And then, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And then I get almost like confused because then Wednesday's task is out of order. And then what winds up happening is I will overcompensate or undercompensate because I didn't stick to my schedule. So that's how a lot of my overwatering happens also, is because I will try to group my care and then like for a specific thing, and then I'll either overcompensate or undercompensate for it because I can't keep it straight in my head. So that might just be a me thing, but I'm sure there's other people who can relate to that also. So keeping a schedule is huge for me personally. So like on Saturday and Sunday, I will actually not usually, I don't know why I'm saying usually, I will water the plants that I have that I'm selling. So I'll water them. And my ship day is on Monday. So I try to wait a few days in between watering and actually shipping the plant. I don't do it right before or the day of because I use a lot of tape when I ship my plants, and sometimes the saturated soil can weaken the tape because it'll drip out at the bottom and then the tape won't stick as well. So I've learned to water just those plants on the weekend, either Saturday or Sunday. And then Monday is when I pack and ship my plants, so that usually takes me a few hours. I'm pretty slow with it. Actually, I'm not slow. I'm just diligent and I am cautious. I'm not slow. I'm diligent and I'm cautious. So that usually takes me most of the morning to package and ship my plants. So that's usually what I do on Mondays. And then Tuesdays are when I water all of my plants, begonia and non-begonia. I try not to propagate because that goes on a different day of the week. I'm obviously not a robot. Sometimes it happens. Sometimes the scissors come out and it happens. I can't help myself sometimes. But in general, I'm pretty good at sticking to the rules. So Tuesday, I will just water everything. What else do I do? Oh, on Fridays, I will do all of like my seed maintenance and my seed care if things need repotting or fertilizing or, I don't know, upgrading or something like that. I'll do that then. Seed. So I think it helps me when I have a schedule, stick to the schedule. And then sometimes I don't feel like it's overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, I have all of these things to do and blah, 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 blah. When it's like, no, I just do a little bit every day and then I feel accomplished. I feel happy that I got some plant time in because in general, plants make me happy. So when I am doing my plant tasks, it usually puts me in a good mood, or I am continuously in a good mood because I'm, working with my plants. So I like doing it a little bit each day. Now, that might not work for some people. Some people might just like to completely, totally group their care into one day. And then, I don't know, they have energy, time. That's just how they work best. That's fine. But this is how I stay organized. So I have a schedule and I stick to it. Now, my spreadsheets, I have multiple. I have one spreadsheet for every single one of the plants that I have, that I own, has its own column in one of my spreadsheets. So I know exactly how often that plant is getting watered, when the last date that plant was getting watered, and I keep the plants themselves organized because I bought these little number stickers on Amazon and I number my pots. So as an example, I'll have Begonia tomentosa, and underneath it I'll have columns that say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And on the physical pots of the plants, I'll have little stickers on them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if I go to tomentosa 3, I'll know exactly what plant that is. So that's one way how I keep my watering organized, is I have a spreadsheet for it and I use my little number stickers. The other thing I have a spreadsheet for is, what else? I have multiple. Oh, my seeds. So all of my different species, I'll have what is the status on all of their seed pods. So I will put a label on each, like after I pollinate a female flower, I'll put a label on that pedicel, and that will create a column in my spreadsheet so I can keep track of when that exact seed pod was pollinated, when it started to dry out, when it was harvested, when the seeds were sown, when I got sprouts. All of that information is organized on a spreadsheet because you can't remember it all. There's just, you think you will and then you don't, because that's happened to me so many times where it's important at the time, or not even at the time. It isn't, let's just say something is important and you say, oh my gosh, this is so important, there's no way I'm going to forget. And then you forget because, life and other things. So just always label. And I suggest a spreadsheet if you like spreadsheets. Also, I keep a planner. Now, admittedly, I don't use this as much as I did last year. Last year, I was very, very diligent with my physical planner, and I would write every single repot, every single pollination, every single anything. I was extremely diligent in my planner. Now this year, I still use it for more major events, a major event being a repot, or what else do I really write in there? I'm trying to think. Recently, those are really only the things that I've been writing in my planner is repots. So I've really transitioned to more electronic keeping, with the notes tab, which is my next point, and the spreadsheet. So I think less physical things, but I loved my planner when I was first getting in to it because it had the one that I found on Amazon has the full calendar over a page, and then when you flip it, every day has, I don't know, 10 lines or something. So if you want to, I don't know, go into details on a specific day for a specific plant, you can. And that really helped me in the beginning stay organized. So I do still have it. I just don't use it as much as I did last year because I'm really utilizing my spreadsheets now. And then lastly, I have my notes app on my phone. I have multiple multiple notes apps, but in general, I have one for it's called Begonia Species, and it's where I put information like when I purchased it, the discovery date of the species, if it has a name, the journal article link, the type, the section, the habitat, the distribution, any specific notes that I want to write on that plant, like I'll put there in this notes. And another one I have is called Begonia Timelines, and this is kind of my digital version of my planner. So it will be by plant. So instead of like the planner is by date, and let's say per date, you'll have multiple plants that you want to write about on that day. Like let's say you repot your Begonia Sarawak and your Begonia tomentosa on the 22nd of May, right? That's under the date, and then you have multiple plants under that date. For Begonia Timelines, what I have in my phone, it's per species. So it'll have Begonia Sarawak up at the top, and then it'll have date, event, date, event, date, event. And then you can go to a different plant, Begonia xanthina, date, event, date, event, date, event. So it's just multiple ways to access the same information, basically. Like sometimes you're looking for a date, some days you're looking for an event, and then you can go to, and this is how I organize it in my head, then I go to the specific piece of information that I know will get me that information. So whether that be my planner, my spreadsheet, or my notes app, I'll know where to find it. So it's essentially all the same information, but different modes on how to deliver that information. I'm trying to think, what else do I have on my notes app that would be interesting to talk about? I also have on my Begonia Species notes app, which this might be a little excessive, I don't know, but I have a map of Asia in general, and I'll have the little, oh my gosh, what's that emoji? The pin, like for the map, like it's the little red dot with the little, I don't know, silver line on the bottom of it. You know what I'm talking about, like the little pin. I'll put a pin in either the country or the region or the mountain area or whatever it is specific. This only works for, actually, no, it works for all of them. So I'll put a pin wherever that plant has been found. And it's just a kind of a cool overlook on, oh, these are where all of my plants are from. So you can see, oh, I didn't realize I had that many plants from China, or, oh, I didn't realize I had that many plants from Borneo. So I don't know, that's just how I stay organized too when it comes to plant care, is I'll reference that map, because let's say plant X is behaving this way and plant Y is behaving this way, and I can't figure it out. But then I'll just, be perusing my information, and I'll look at the map and say, oh, they're both from Sarawak. Maybe they're going through something similar. And then I'll do more research and try to figure out, what the issue is, or you know what I'm trying to say. So yeah, I think that's it. I think that I covered a lot of information. I hope this was helpful. I hope it was interesting to listen to. I hope you understood what I'm saying. I know sometimes I can be redundant. I'm working on it, but I hope it was interesting. I hope you enjoyed listening, and thank you for listening. Bye.